Welcome everyone to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue, and today we have to start and in fact basically finish with all Vince McMahon news because there is just so much of it. So please remember to hit like, subscribe if you haven't. Let's jump straight into it and we will take comments shortly afterwards. Vince McMahon is back in place as executive chairman of the WWE, a specialist position created purely for him for one specific role. And hopefully you won't be confused by this because I sure as hell was. His role as executive chairman is to seek out strategic alternatives. That's his whole job. Nobody knows what that means. I don't think the WWE knows what that means, but that's his job. Essentially, his role is to seek a sale for the WWE, a sale that boosts the profits of everyone involved and makes him a hell of a lot of money. So let's talk about how we got here. At the end of last year, Vince McMahon sent a letter to the WWE board, essentially stating, "I'm coming back." The board responded, "Given that you're actively under investigation, maybe that's not a good idea." And he responded further saying, "Shh, I'm coming back." Since then, he has changed the bylaws of the company, changed how the board operates, and ultimately done everything he possibly can to change the way that the WWE as a company is run to accommodate the fact that he now has veto power over major deals for the WWE for media and television. Essentially, this means, for example, when the Fox deal comes up next year, when the USA Network deal comes up next year, he can say, nope, no deal's being signed. He could take the WWE off TV and eliminate its entire revenue stream. The question I have to ask is, why would you give yourself that power if you don't intend to use it? Using this, Vince was able to negotiate a major change with the WWE board, placing himself and the formerly fired by Vince McMahon, George Barrios and Michelle Wilson, back on the board at the expense of Joel and Lyons Dillon, Jeffrey R. Speed and Alan M. Wexler. Also, two people resigned immediately from this, those being Ignace Lahoud and Manjeet Singh, both of whom resigned on the same day that Vince McMahon came to power. This leaves two vacancies on the board. The board now only has 9 people on it, and I will read you their names. They are, of course, Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, Nick Khan, Paul Levesque, Steve Koonin, Michelle McKenna, Steve Pomon, Judge Barrios, and now Michelle Wilson. There are 9 people on that board. Several of them were part of the investigation into Vince McMahon, the internal investigation that was held in order to determine whether they would be keeping him in position or not. Welcome, Horsey. Thank you kindly for the donation there. I very much appreciate it. We will be getting to the comments and the chat very shortly. Now, to be clear, Vince McMahon still holds the power to veto any incoming TV deal and has full authority to remove any possible TV deal currently in play. This means that he can essentially bury the WWE. A wrestling company with no TV deal, as we know, has no future either. It would be the end of the WWE, it would be the end of the talent there, and it would be the end of the company. That is the power that he currently holds, and will still hold even after the company is sold if he is maintained as a majority shareholder. Now, there is a big question as regards the creative question. Will he still have creative power? Will he be regaining creative power? The answer is maybe, and a solid maybe at that. Ultimately, Vince McMahon has stated very clearly he is a big fan of the current administration, Stephanie McMahon, Nick Khan and Triple H. He has no intention of getting involved. However, he did change the bylaws in a way that would allow him to basically kick out Triple H and install himself as head of creative if he so chooses. Once again, why would you give yourself that power if you have no plan to use it? Vince is currently looking for a big sale, late 2023, early 2024. Late 2023, they will be negotiating the new TV deals with Fox and USA Network. He would like those to be completed before the sale is completed, but he wants to get companies interested before that. What I will say as regards the creative section is that he may or may not have already pitched several alternative matches to those planned for WrestleMania this year. because he believes it will be more appealing to advertisers and thus to purchasers. Fox is interested in all programming, to my knowledge. This is when it comes to the TV deal. They want Raw, they want NXT, they don't just want SmackDown. They are planning a big pitch, which would involve a purchase of the company, though I don't believe it will be with enough money to really satisfy the urges of Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon has 81% of all voting power in the WWE. With the change to bylaws, the WWE is unable to make a decision without Vince McMahon, and there is literally no way of stopping Vince McMahon from doing whatever he wants with the entire company and anything contained therein. Most of the changes will be formalised in the spring when there is a shareholder meeting. Ultimately, Vince is going through the motions there. It's completely unnecessary to really have that meeting considering he has 81% of the power involved, but the meeting will still go ahead. He hopes to have buyers interested by then so that they can begin restructuring and budget cuts as determined necessary for the sale of the company. This, as you might imagine, has caused a lot of issues for people backstage, particularly those who have only recently returned under Triple H. There has been some serious concerns about their future, and to be fair, rightly so. They are in a very, very difficult situation right now. If budget cuts are coming, they will be the ones who are aimed at. So there are some very unhappy voices in the locker room at the moment. Some who returned recently want back out again. Some new deals are looking less solid, and there have been at least 2 requests for release already. Very few people are happy with the situation. A meeting has just taken place just under 2 hours ago over Zoom today in the hope of offering reinsurance to those employees. Employees were assured that Vince would not be involved in creative, and not much else of note happened. From what I can tell, the WWE, by which I mean Nick Khan, Stephanie McMahon and Triple H, knew where the wrestlers would be concerned and seeked to reassure them of that. What I will say finally on that one is that Sasha Banks is undoubtedly very happy that she didn't sign a new deal under Triple H when it was offered, given that she would now be working once again under Vince McMahon. Please forgive me if it takes me a minute or two to catch up with the chat. Obviously, it's been a very busy chat while I've been talking. I will be catching up with every comment that I can. So please do forgive me if it takes a little time. In the meantime, please remember to hit like. We have 83 viewers and only 18 likes. Every thumbs up makes a massive difference and can really help the channel grow. We are trying to get to 5,000 at the end of the year. In order to do that, we need people hitting like and people subscribing, so please do remember to do so. Austin Palmer, first one to say hi, says, hope you're doing I'd imagine that means well. Vince can't stay away, he really can't. Justin Stevens says, I might not be here for the first 15-20 minutes, so here's my simple question. Will Vince be in creative? That question is very easily answered by a very firm maybe. Code says, Vince is too much of a disgraced control freak to stay away from WWE. If he can't control what happens, then he'll probably bury it. I feel bad for the talented WWE, especially those who were rehired under Triple H. Eric Douglas says, AEW just got the best late Christmas present ever with this news. Certainly it'll keep a few people there who are wanting out. Code says, with those resigning in the board of directors, more Vince people can just be put in place. They can. Vince has, as we know, final veto power on every choice now, so he has the ability to basically say, no, I want that person, and he'll get that person. Thank you very much, Wiggly, on the Twitch side, for renewing your subscription for an 18th month. Thank you kindly. Very much appreciate it. If you're watching on Twitch, please remember to follow, and you can donate either through bits or through subscribing. Bailey on the Twitter side says, not a good day, Tom. Absolutely furious that this liar and an unindicted predator is walking onto a board ready to burn it down for his own ego. Spiderboss says, hello, spoiler warning, nation. 2023 couldn't have begun worse. According to Dave Meltzer, Mercedes Money will not sign with AEW because signing with AEW means a long-term deal, and he hopes Triple H stays as head of creative. That dog says, I hope this isn't the end of WWE as we know it. Bailey says he'll run off his own daughter and son-in-law like he ran off Linda and Shane. Lily Land says, where in the Netherlands, not UK, change that. I'm in the UK. I don't know where you are, clearly the Netherlands, but I'm in the UK, so there's always going to be UK times. You better get used to it. Ooh. There. Horsey says, sad thing here is Vince has never not been majority shareholder, and even though he's semi-retired, he never actually gave up owning the company as majority shareholder. That's the problem here, sadly. I can't argue with that. Also says, just been listening to the business podcast Eric Bischoff does, and like he said, it's a coup. Sadly, there may be nothing anyone can do. That's the sad part here. I can't disagree. Jermaine, welcome, says hi to one of the busiest wrestling journalists out there. Hi, welcome, Jermaine. Great to see you, mate. Justin checks a Zero News tweeted they had a source in the Bloodline invading Raw this Monday as part of a story to get Reigns stripped of a belt. Seems fishy though. Yep. Zero News also said that Edge would be returning and that someone else would be returning on Raw this week. We got to remember both sides, guys. Traffic says, good evening, Tom and chat. Excited for this one. Welcome, Traffic. Carmelina says, is Roman Reigns going to be on SmackDown? Seems unlikely this week, though he will be there plenty in the build to the Rumble. I haven't heard anything myself. Brad Becker says, hello, Mr. Tom Colohue. I hope you are well. Very well, thank you, Brad. Brad, thank you kindly for that. Rob says, how do you enjoy Okada Jay White? I loved it. Admittedly, I do think Omega Ospreay was the better match, but I still quite enjoy Jay's work. I'm wearing a Brevu Switchblade t-shirt as we speak. Billy Crystal says, I'm all giddy with excitement for this episode. Well, I should hope so. It's big news. And Stuart Ridley says, evening Tom, car crash incoming at Titan Towers, methinks. Horsey gave that £5 donation and also said the legend is here. Yes you are, Horsey, yes you are. Spider-Boss says, your thoughts on the boss reference made by Britt Baker on Dynamite? Fans assume it's going to be Mercedes money. People already assumed it was going to be Mercedes. He might as well make the reference and try and sell a few more tickets, even if it's not. Omega says, Tom Colohue. And also Tegan Knox. Welcome, Omega. I always love your enthusiasm. Great to see you, mate. Spider-Boss says, all this Vince's retirement after the Hush Money controversy and Vince retired and now he returns. What is going on? He got bored, basically. Wiggly says, yo, 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 yo. This is surely bad news for WWE's PR if he's back. He doesn't care, basically. It may do serious long-term damage to the company and he literally just does not care. Bailey says, when does the list appear on social media of all Vince's future roster cuts? Because unless your name is Austin Theory, Charlotte Flair or Lacey Evans, you're potentially on a cut list. True. Michael just says, money. Welcome, Michael. How you doing, mate? Callie says, evening, Tom. Hope you're feeling better. Feeling a lot better, thank you. Still a little bit coffee, hence. But generally doing okay. Cam says, hi, Tom. Welcome, Cam. Eric says, hello, Tom. Hope you had a great day. Good one so far, Eric. Good one so far. Nelson says, can Triple H and Stephanie buy Vince's shares? If he chooses to sell them, yes, but he's not going to do that. Jordan says, evening, Tom. Vince being Vince again, then? Absolutely, Jordan. Unfortunately so. Welcome. Razar says, hi, Tom. Excited for spoiler warning. Also predicted Vince would come back. He's an egomaniac, would rather burn everything to the ground than just leave. We came that close to this actually happening until the board backed down. Joey says, is Vince doing this to try and take control of creative again? Apparently not. Apparently it's just for the sale because he doesn't believe that the WWE, as in the board at current, would be able to sell the company without him. I think ultimately the board are resistant to selling, so he's just decided, no, if I'm going to retire, I'm going to sell, I'm going to take the money. And he's probably going to try and rebuy the XFL, let's be fair. Dad says, Tom, do you think we'll see the Bloodline or Judgment Day today? I do not personally. We will see some element of the Bloodline. Of course, it's only Roman who has a part-time contract. Eric says, why would Vince want to bury the WWE? Because he wants his own way. It's that simple. He was proving the point that it's my way or the entire thing burns to the ground. Scorched earth policy, that's Vince McMahon. Razar says, on another note, I watched my first New Japan show of Wrestle Kingdom, mostly for Sasha, but it was a great show. Also feel bad for all the UK fans that have to stay up for WWE's PLEs. Yeah, you're starting to realise now, because I have to stay up till like 4 in the morning. I stay up till 3 in the morning just for SmackDown, and I still have a full-time day job. Horsey says, bet this has made a great family Christmas for them all. I suspect this conversation likely happened at Thanksgiving, let's be fair. Code says, Vince is a liar. He'll probably become head of creative. There is unfortunately no way of knowing at this point as to his intentions. I suspect he'll have trouble keeping his hand out of the pie. As I say, he has been talking about WrestleMania matches already. There is a very large spider currently climbing up my wall. It's not large, the legs are large. It's not necessarily large. Simon says, hey Tom, any Sasha Mercedes Monet AEW news? Nope. Trekopedia says he's not there tonight, he's just going to negotiate. He gave Triple H, Steph and Nick Khan his blessing to keep doing what they're doing. He did that very, very publicly and very, very vocally indeed. So I would agree that at the moment... Oh, it's gone. It's vanished. That's a great sign. So at the moment, that is the plan going forwards. Billy Crystal says, up next on Disney Channel, Monday Night Raw. Yeah, I definitely can't see it. Definitely can't see it. No, Jaden, no update on Mercedes money. I believe that I said exactly what was going to happen, and that is exactly what did happen. So this is the place for updates, but at the moment there is no update to give. Stephen Harris says, can Triple H and Stephanie McMahon buy WWE from Vince McMahon? I've lost track of that. Bear with me. Let Triple H be CEO and Stephanie McMahon chairwoman if Vince McMahon wants to sell to them, which he doesn't. So, no. Horsey says, could Triple H and Stephanie walk? They could, they won't. Eric says, I'm scared for Liv. Do you think she gets cut? No. After all, she got the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship under Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon made the choice to make her a champion. Triple H didn't make that choice. Vince McMahon did. Razar says, do you know anything about the new FTC law about non-compete clauses for independent contractors and how this affects WWE? The WWE have stated openly that they will cross that bridge when they come to it. They're not entirely sure it's going to pass. After all, there is a bit of a delay in the House at the moment. Wiggly says, if he's a majority shareholder even after it's sold, that means he's still the owner. No, it would mean so, yes. It is possible he will be retained, after all, in a smaller degree. I don't see it. I think he's trying to take the money and walk myself. Bailey says, why would any network buy without a majority interest? Otherwise just giving him more money and power. It depends. They could reduce his interest and take some of what's on offer. For example, you could have a 40% majority, but it's not actually a majority of the shares, but it's more than anyone else. There are different ways to do it. Hector says, I know we may never know, but I feel like there had to be assurances in place for Paul Levesque, Stephanie and Nick Khan, but that could just be the optimist in me. To my knowledge, there were discussions and assurances were made. However, Vince McMahon has a habit of making assurances that he doesn't keep. Michael says, Vince is a fascist. Bailey responds, Vince is a predator. And Michael would walk right now. Wiggly says, what on earth? Tom just DM'd you about something concerning in the chat. If it's as regards what Ed has just dealt with, I actually haven't seen it because he dealt with it nice and quick. But I appreciate that, Wiggly. And I appreciate that, Ed, of course. If it was a racist comment, I absolutely do not want it. It is absolutely not welcome here. Racism is not welcome in this chat or in any of my channels. Thank you, Ed, for taking care. Spiderboss says, Wrestling News Co. said that Mercedes money signed with AEW. Wrestling News Co. Are they not also the ones who said it was going to be Rhea Ripley versus Ronda Rousey for SmackDown Women's Championship? Has Ronda Rousey not now confirmed my report that she's planning to go into the tag division? Wiggly says, Sasha is definitely on her way to AEW. Haven't heard anything about it myself. Sean says, hi, Tom. Hi, Sean. How you doing, mate? Michael says, I like how the statement by Steph Nick Triple H said, the founder, referring to Vince. He is not the founder. True. The founder of WWE was Vince McMahon, not Vince McMahon. Spiderboss says, with Vince back, it wouldn't take long for Austin Theory to move on into the main event picture. I mean, it wouldn't. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right move to do so. Michael says, I'm done with WWE, just here to chat. Well, I appreciate that, Michael. I appreciate that regardless, that you can pop in and have a chat. After all, we can still very much chat about the fact that New Japan had a great Wrestle Kingdom, did it not? Spiderboss says, Mercedes Varnado not re-signing with WWE could be considered an L for Triple H. Nope, because ultimately it was down to her. You can't win a fight that the other person has already decided not to fight. It's really that simple. Wiggly says... no, Wiggly, I was just talking about possibilities. I'm not stating that's definitely going to happen. I'm just stating possibilities. Sean says, since Vince is back, do you see any of the stars that have come back leaving? Possibly, yes. There have been some discussions of this. Wiggly says, could you envisage talent walking out over this? Absolutely. 2 members of the board already have, after all. Hector says, as crazy as this sounds, I honestly feel like a sale of the company would be best for everyone involved long term, because it's hard to believe any potential buyer would want Vince a part of the deal, considering his ongoing legal issues, which is not untrue. Spiderboss says, I think Mercedes Varnado not resigning is a loss for Triple H. I disagree personally. Steven says, can Triple H and Stephanie McMahon buy WWE from Vince McMahon if he wants them to? Yes. Oh, I've already caught up on this. Sorry, guys. I read a repeat comment there. Trickopedia says, Stephen, the belief is that Nick Khan or The Rock may buy the company. Who said that? I've not heard anyone say that. Simon says, any news on Liv, or will Liv be on SmackDown? Likely, yes. After all, they're moving into the tag division for Ronda and Shayna, and they need opponents. Trickopedia says, Tom, did you say Fox wants NXT? Yes, I absolutely did. Jaden says, any news on Charlotte Flair? She back. She champ. She is likely going into the Royal Rumble without a designated opponent. I suspect there will be at least some form of rematch, but Ronda Rousey doesn't seem all that interested at the moment. Noob, welcome, says, hello, Tom. Seems like there's a lot of people already got their torches and pitchforks when they heard that Vince McMahon returns. Yes, and so they should. If you've not already seen it, I posted a video on my YouTube channel about Vince McMahon and the lengthy amount of accusations that have been levied against him over the years. I wouldn't back him either, to be blunt. Horsey says, bet Bray was one of those worried. If he gets involved with Bray Wyatt will be very unhappy. Joey says Vince is going to destroy everything Triple H has been working on if he takes control again. Razar says, is Vince making changes to the WrestleMania card? He has made pitches. Pitches. Kevin says, the only two people happy to see Mr. McMahon back are Kevin Dunn and Bruce Pritchard. King of Cobra says, slow news day, huh? Yeah, so slow. Steven says, Vince McMahon needs to stay at home. By and large, he has. He hasn't actually gone anywhere. He did all of this from the safety of his own armchair. Kevin says, don't forget Mr. McMahon's theme song, No Chance in Hell, I'm going to retire. Jermaine says, everybody should be happy the Lex Luthor, Norman Osborn Green Goblin of Wrestling is back, and you know Triple H is going bye-bye, just throwing it out there. Sasha/Mercedes money was right. I don't think Triple H is going anywhere. I definitely think Triple H, Stephanie, and Nick Khan will all stay in place. Vince McMahon is looking for a payday. He's looking for the money. He's not particularly interested in the day-to-day. He's actually quite happy being retired, but he wants enough money to launch a new company. It is very, very possible that Vince McMahon launches an alternative wrestling company to the WWE just because why the hell not? Will says, how do the big stars feel about the news? I can't give specifics. I have not asked specific people. I have spoken to people I speak to in the locker room and got the general feel. Christoph says, Vince doesn't care about the product anymore. He wants to sell. Even before his retirement was obvious, he couldn't care less about it. That's why it went so bad. So I think we can believe him. I hope. Fingers crossed. Dracopedia says he won't kill the company because he's a majority shareholder and he'd lose a ton of money. He absolutely would. That is very true. A lot of money would go bye-bye. Kevin says, I was surprised WWE removed Sasha Banks from the WWE roster page. I wasn't. It's, once again, exactly what I said was going to happen. Come January, she was gone. Steven says, I don't try Vince McMahon at all, because if he gets back in WWE head of creative, that means it is going to be a nightmare. He has said that he will not be doing so. Jane says, will there be a SmackDown watch along? Yes, there will. The go live for that will be launching right after this spoiler warning. Justin says, Karrion Kross getting that helmet ready. Ew. Jonathan says, good evening all. Welcome, Jonathan. Joey says, Vince won't go away until he kills WWE himself. I mean, he is god of wrestling, apparently. Eric says, favourite member of the Bullet Club? Jay White. That shouldn't really surprise you. I like Jay White. Cheers, Horsey. Kervin says, Wrestle Kingdom 17. Oh, slightly behind there. Getting there. Wrestle Kingdom 17, the women's match deserved more minutes. Yeah, it absolutely did. But it was the first women's match on a Wrestle Kingdom. So I'm giving them credit for even just getting started. Yes, Jaden, I'll give a recap of the Vince news just as soon as I catch up with the chat. I'll give a full recap of everything I've spoken about. Razar says, do you think this Vince news could affect a potential Rock return? Seems to be the type to care about his public image a lot, and he doesn't really need the money either. It could, but at the moment there are no plans for The Rock to return anyway. If anything, I think this makes The Rock more likely to return because Vince McMahon will be able to pitch more to him. Jaden says, is the WWE getting sold? Yes, they are aiming to sell by the end of this year, the beginning of next year. Venom says, I hope Vince doesn't come back and ruin Trips' hard work. Well, he back. Horsey says, smash those likes, people. Tom deserves it. Thank you, Horsey. We currently have 100 viewers and 34 likes. That's a third. Every thumbs up makes a massive difference. And please remember to subscribe as well. We are currently setting targets and trying to get to 2,000 subscribers. We are very close to that number. A good night tonight may indeed make it happen. But right now we're on 1,952. Every little does, after all, help. Drekipedia says, I really think Nick Khan, Triple H and Stephanie will buy the company. Triple H and Steph's kids have said they want to run the company in the future. Do they have the money that Vince is looking for? Because that's not guaranteed. Tom says, where's the Pepsi? I'm just on lemonade today. Just on lemonade. The sugar's doing me a disservice. What can I say? It makes me cough more. Joey says, do you think the talent will refuse to work under Vince if he takes over creative? No, but I think several of them will leave. Horsey says, Trekopedia, not that easy if Vince doesn't want to sell. If he doesn't want to sell, he simply won't, and it really doesn't matter who wants to try and buy. Eric says an Omega Osprey match was legendary. It was a lot of fun. I quite enjoyed the part where Osprey just got headbutted through the table. That was brutal. Simon says, Tom, your thoughts on the Steve Mahonson DAZN report on Mercedes Moné signing with AEW? I haven't read it as of yet. I'll have to read it before saying so, though I have worked with Steve after a fashion, and I've spoken to some of the people at DAZN, and I see no reason to question it. Lil Fettuccini says, what's going on with Vince? He back. Kervin says, WrestleMania 39, Charlotte versus Naomi needs to happen. Joey says, I feel sorry for Regal and all the other talent that just came back. Vince will fire them again. There has already been talks of budget cuts to prepare the company for a sale. Spider-Boss says, I fear for the women's tag team titles after Vince is back. Once again, that is a creative decision. He has claimed very openly that he will not be involved in anything creative. Jermaine says, does this mean Naomi doesn't come back to WWE and goes to AEW instead? It isn't the case that if you don't go to WWE, you automatically go to AEW. I feel I should remind people of that. The Wrestling Observer have been confirming my reporting that discussions with Naomi are ongoing, and it seems more likely she will sign a contract. This, after all, was what I said 2 months ago in my video updating people on the situation with Sasha and Naomi, particularly that Sasha is still signed, was at the time, still signed to the WWE, but with a release date incoming of January. Razar says, are there talent that asked for their release since Vince is coming back? Yes. Steven says, Vince McMahon is not going to sell the company to nobody else. To succeed up under Lose It is going to The Rock or Nick Khan, by WWE, CNN, or NBC Universal Comcast. Okay. Spider-Boss says, I think Roman will retain as champion as long as WWE wants now that Vince is back. Once again, Vince is not making creative decisions at this point in time. We shouldn't see anything change on TV. Carmelina says, I was just wondering, because Roman Reigns was advertised on Tonight Show, where SmackDown is being held. Sorry, do you mean The Tonight Show or Tonight Show? Trekopedia says, Tom, is it true that Fox wants NXT? Oh, you're asking me if it's true, the report that I've just said myself. Think about it. Venom says, please tell me Vince can't take over from Triple H. Vince absolutely can take over from Triple H, but he has assured everyone that he will not be doing so. Dimitar, welcome, says, hi Tom. Have you heard of any other dates for Mercedes outside of her match with Kyrie? Not as of yet. They are still discussing how her time with New Japan will look and what she will be doing so there. It is not a long-term deal. Christoph says, why Vince wouldn't sell to Hunter and Stephanie if they put the money on the table, so he doesn't want WWE to stay in the family. It's actually really simple. I don't necessarily know whether they have enough money to give him the money that he is looking for. Alyssa said, is Cody Rhodes going to win the Royal Rumble? He is currently the favourite. Spider-Boss said, it surprised me Mercedes Varnado didn't want to return under Triple H. It didn't surprise me. KJ says, what's up, Tom? What's up, KJ? Stephen Harris says, Naomi needs to go to New Japan with Sasha Banks. She'll be better in the women's division over there. That doesn't necessarily mean that they made the same offer to her that they did to Sasha. Thank you, Michael, for the clarification, saying it wasn't Wrestling News Co. that reported Mercedes to AEW. It was the zone Stephen Mulhausen. I've never heard of that guy. I have. He gets some decent interviews. He's done some work previously interviewing the Revival, for example, and I've spoken to him a little bit about that. The DAZN guys are good guys. Venom says, JD from NY is reporting Sasha Sound of AEW. It's entirely come from DAZN's Stephen Mulhausen. We need to trace things back to the original source, guys. Thank you, Michael, for doing so. Sean says, there are reports from Meltzer about ongoing negotiations with Naomi, but nothing has been signed yet. Those reports are from Meltzer. They come 2 months after I reported exactly that same thing. KJ says, Mercedes not re-signing with WWE isn't a loss for Triple H. It's not like she left under Triple H. She was already gone. Lely Lan, I think you should think carefully about what you say. And I never like to read the phrase, sorry if anyone was offended. You should be sorry for saying it. Sean says, all I need is an answer to, is he coming to creative? And I can give you the exact answer to that one, maybe. Maybe. Carlos says, The Rock purchased XFL, will now buy WWE with Nick Khan and investors. Really? Venom says, why has Vince got to come back and ruin everything? Why can't he just let us fans enjoy the good work Triple H is doing? Because he wants the money. It's all about the money, money, money. It's all about the Mercedes money. Joey says, do you think Bray will ask to be released if Vince takes over? No. Steven says if Naomi goes to AEW, she can help that women's division out with Jade Cargill, Ember Moon, and Toni Storm. Yeah, and we said that about Toni Storm, Ember Moon, Paige. We've been saying a lot of things like Ruby Soho. Yeah, she can go help him out. Doesn't seem to help much. Michael says, I haven't been this excited about wrestling. Steven says, Tony Khan is not interested in buying WWE. Tony Khan? No, we're talking Nick Khan. Nick Khan. Simon, I don't really care much about what those people think. I would prefer an actual report. How about Andrew there, Ian? KJ says, Naomi can't help them. Only one who can help the women's division in AEW is Tony Khan. They have a ton of talent. He doesn't book them. That is true. Venom says, surely the old fool's got enough money to make his own other wrestling company. Yes, but if he had more. Trekkipedia says, Tom, who do you think is winning the men's Royal Rumble? I'm thinking Cody Rhodes, and then he defeats Roman. That's exactly what I personally think as well. Alyssa says, do you have The Rock coming back at the Royal Rumble? I don't personally know. Wiggly suggests that Vince just needs to disappear, which sounds like you're going to make him disappear, which I have questions about. Peter, welcome, says Vince McMahon is back in WWE. That's great. Didn't enjoy Triple H's creative direction. Well, Peter, you'll be very disappointed to hear that he has no interest in creative at this point in time. True, Wiggly. True, Wiggly. Hector says, just imagine if Vince doesn't start a new wrestling promotion but buys one not named WWE, because if it breaks the UFC deal of $4 billion, I could see him buying up an indie company with all that money. Or he would absolutely try buy AEW. You know he would. You know he would. Bailey says, what could Vince do with talent work stoppage? He'd fire them and hire other people instead. It's that simple. Ray says, did you see the Don West tribute? I don't think so, no. Simon says, watch my first, really very first, so your first, Wrestle Kingdom for Sasha. Really enjoyed the pay-per-view, give it 8 out of 10. Really enjoyed the great Omega versus Ospreay match. Well, New Japan might be the one for you then, Simon. Justin says, yeah, I know you're sick of me asking Bliss questions, but where do you see the Alexa gimmick going? I'm not sure. I'm really not. With Bray Wyatt being back, they have clearly taken her in the direction that she wanted to go, which is a positive. She seems much happier playing that particular gimmick, but the fact that they are so open and blasé about it suggests to me that this isn't a permanent change. Timothy says, Vince technically is not in charge of anything except pushing for a sale. He is a majority shareholder, and the changes of the bylaws means that he is literally in charge of every single thing. Sean, you don't always decide to work in the same place as the person you're married to. Ray says, are you watching Impact Wrestling Hard to Kill on the 13th of January? I am not. I unfortunately do not have a lot of time with a full-time day job, the wrestling that I watch, and my actual commitment to the person. So Impact does have to sit to the side. Jermaine says, hey Tom, do you think Vince McMahon shows up tonight on TV and opens SmackDown? Nope, he is not there to my knowledge, at least yet. Peter says, will there be budget cuts again since Vince is back? I will be recapping what I've already said as soon as I've caught up with the chat. Billy, I will not be attending Money in the Bank. I will be hosting a watch party for it. Thank you for the clarification, Carmelina. Dad says, Tom, regarding the Rumble, when will they draw who comes out first and last? They don't really do that anymore. They just throw them out there. Razar says, what did you think about Mercedes Money's New Japan debut? It was okay. It was okay. She looked very New Japan, but the move wasn't perfect. It was a bad start, and as unfortunately usual, her promo left a little bit to be desired. Steven says, I'm praying to God he doesn't get involved in creative direction. WWE Superstar is going to leave WWE again. They don't want to have nothing to do with Vince McMahon. Venom says, I hope any of the people that have returned don't get released. Eric says, Naomi is likely staying, especially with the way Vince treats the Usos like gods. Again, Vince is not in charge of creative, at least at this point in time. Nas, that's a good question. That's a very good question. Are FDR going to change their mind now that Vince is back? Christoph says, do you think Mercedes' debut in Japan was ruined by the botch and lack of crowd reaction? No, not even slightly. Lack of crowd reaction is very New Japan. That's just something that happens there. They're not that vocal. That's actually a mark of respect. The botch was slight, but it was there. Spider-Boss says, just as a question, did Triple H ever make an offer for Mercedes Venado for a return? Spider-Boss, you've been here a lot. I've mentioned a lot that there have been active negotiations. like a lot. So you know the answer to that question. Wiggly says, could the Khan family buy WWE and just merge it with AEW and scrap AEW? Once again, in order for a sale to happen, you don't just need a buyer, you also need a seller. Vince will not sell to Tony Khan. That's just not going to happen. Jaden says, Tom, do you suspect Sasha will do a promo in New Japan Stardom, or will we have to wait till the match? She will make her own little appearances. She'll likely be involved in a couple of matches in the build-up to it, just to get things going. Wiggly says, I have to now admit for the first time apart, Hikaru Shida, AEW is actually really boring now. Okay, that's your opinion. Sean says, possible Dakota Io and Johnny ask for their releases or leave now that Vince is back. Once again, Vince is not currently in charge of creative. I cannot sit here and say this person's done this person's done this. We also have no way of saying, oh, if this happens, and this happens, and this happens, then this will happen. Hypotheticals, can't do it. Spider-Boss says, do you think AEW will change Saray's tag team partner on January 11th? Maybe, I don't know. Keem says, is it possible Fox can block Vince from returning? No. Vince is back. He's not returning, he's returned. It's too late. It's happened. Dom says, what up, Tom? Don't forget to the like button. Oh, we got 2 words for you. You're late. Also just got here, is there a watch party tonight? Yes, there is a watch party tonight. Please do remember to hit the like button as well. We have 98 viewers and only the 38 likes. Every little does help. Simon says, are you watching New Japan Strong Valley? Yeah, absolutely. Dimitar says, a lot of people seem to forget Mercedes has wanted to wrestle in Japan from the start. Doesn't seem like she has anything against the company, judging by her tweets from the other day. Yeah, she wanted to work in New Japan. She took the opportunity to do so. Nelson says, do you think a WWE and New Japan partnership could still happen? Yes, there are still active negotiations going on as regards a partnership there. Carl Anderson, being involved as he was a positive for that deal. King of Cobra says, 2023 is also already a crazy year for wrestling. Can it top 2022? That's the question. Simon says, do you think Vince's return could impact Naomi WWE Royal Rumble chances? Again, massive hypotheticals there, Simon. We don't know if she's going to be in the Royal Rumble. We don't know if she's signed a new deal yet, because to my knowledge, she hasn't. So we don't know what the chances are. So we don't know if something can impact chances when we don't know what the chances are. Jacopedia says, Tom, who do you think Stone Cold may have a match with if he returns at Mania? That is another hypothetical. There are a couple of possibilities, I'm sure, but we don't know if he's actually returning. Barry says, if you mentioned this talk of America banning non-compete clauses in contracts, be big for wrestling if it happens. There is talk about that happening, the non-compete clauses being removed from contracts. As I say, the WWE are planning to cross that bridge if and when they come to it. Noob says, who's going to face Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania 39? If it's not Rhea Ripley or Becky Lynch winning the Rumble, then who? Becky Lynch I still think is most likely to win the Royal Rumble, but I do think Bianca Belair is the one who's going to be challenging Charlotte Flair. How we get to that, I'm not sure. Title unification, maybe. Simon says, do you think Sasha, Mercedes money signs of AEW now because of... Okay, once again, we've talked about that. There is no answer to that question. Someone has reported that there's been a signature. It wasn't me. I don't have anything on that. Also, Vince... Why would Vince returning have anything to do with Sasha signing independently for an independent company? If Brian Pillman Jr. signs a deal with Major League Wrestling, is that because Vince returned to the WWE? No. Completely unrelated. There is no connection whatsoever. Ed says, do we have any idea of the content given to talent in today's 3 p.m. meeting as reported by Brandon Thurston? Yes, we do. Essentially, the meeting comes down to reassurances given that Vince McMahon will not be involved in creative, reassuring the wrestlers that the plans have not changed, that matches will not change, and that pushes will not change. Vince McMahon is in charge of the sale, but Triple H is still the person in charge of creative, and certain people, no names were given, but I don't think it's hard to work out who, certain people will not be returning at all. Lely Lan, you're telling me stop spreading fear. Well, you are completely worthless in this particular group. There is no value to you whatsoever. All I'm going to do is just get rid of you. You've been racist, you have been abusive. There is no value to having you here, especially when you're going to accuse me of spreading fear by stating that Vince is back. Vince is back. If you want to live in your own little world of denial, fancy Lelyland, by all means you do. But I'm not going to be dragged into it by a pointless troll. Venom says, only way I want him back is to have a match with Omos. 23 Fresh says, why won't Vince McMahon just bring back WCW and have Triple H run the WWE side? Because he doesn't want to, primarily. Simon says, Goldberg's going to be a world champion. Nope. Ray says, now Vince is back, will Eric Young still sign with WWE? That depends. Once again, we're putting way too much credence to the Vince McMahon return. If he's not involved in creative, people still want to work for Triple H. Triple H is still there. Triple H is not gone. People still want to work for Triple H. Eric says, a few issues I had with her about, one, they got rid of the entrance with the fireworks, two, what was with the fireworks? I don't really know what you're saying there, Eric. Who are we referring to? Hector says, I bet Triple H's phone is being blown up because he's technically head of talent relations, so if talent is worried about their jobs, he's going to be the one they'll go to, hence the meeting. Spider-Boss says, I think Mercedes Moné's debut on New Japan was okay, promo was meh, preferred her as Sasha in terms of her promos. Simon says, I'm really enjoying loving Sasha, Mercedes Moné's pro wrestling tease store, but my wallet unfortunately isn't. And that dog says, hopefully that doesn't mean we now have NXT 4.0 with Vince back. Once again, that would mean he would have to be involved in creative. He has been very clear that he is not intending to do that. It is still a maybe, unfortunately, but at the moment, not so much. Welcome, Megan. How you doing? Says, could Vince try and buy NWA? Also, hi. Yeah, probably. I mean, here's what I'm seeing. Vince is back for a payday. What he wants is money, and he's going to get it one way or the other. There's a reason he's coming back for money. There's a reason. And the reason, quite simple, is that he wants to do something with that money. It wouldn't surprise me if all he did was buy a competitor and take on the WWE just to kind of prove that he could. It'd be funny. Spider-Bell says, what's next for Ronda on SmackDown? She has mentioned going into the tag division. I expect that's going to be Damage Control versus Ronda and Shayna. I, after all, have been mentioning this for a while. Dominic says, hi Tom, 3 questions. Why did they put the championship on Charlotte, and are they bringing another world title to Raw? Is there a watch party tonight? Thank you, Dominic. There is a watch party tonight. They are planning to bring a world title back to Raw, not a new one, but bring one back. And as regards Charlotte, the plan was just to get the title off Ronda. Her current run is not so successful, and Ronda does want to go into the tag division and work there. And no venom, to my knowledge, Johnny Gargano has not asked for his release. People are speculating. Nas says, I recommend anyone to watch Tom's video on Vince to get in the mood for his return. It's a good video. I worked really hard on that, and I'm very, very proud of it. I need to put it out there more. Simon, it was alright. I don't really remember it. JJ says, just keep Vince far away from creative. He's going to instantly turn Becky back heel and mess up everything with her and Bayley. Again, to my knowledge, right now, he has no intention that he will be joining creative. I'm eventually going to have to stop repeating myself. And it says, from what we've seen on Raw with former Hurt Business members in the back, I got a feeling we get Hurt Business reunion. We very possibly do. Not right now, though. Spider-Boss says, your thoughts on Dominic Mysterio's promo on Raw? He's better than I gave him credit for. Simon says, is Alexa Bliss a full-time heel now? No, because full-time would mean heel until she retires, and there's a lot of time between now and then, so they're not committing to that. Trekipedia says, I did hear NWA has already put their Power Show back on YouTube and he's only doing the pay-per-views for Fight TV. Jermaine says, hey Tom, Dave Meltzer has confirmed that people in WWE higher-up believe that Mercedes, when she's done in New Japan, will come back to the WWE. Those same higher-ups also believe that Mercedes would sign a new deal and she wouldn't leave after all. Joey says, do you know what William Regal's new backstage role is? Apparently he's at SmackDown tonight. Yes, and I've explained it on a few occasions. William Regal, essentially, his backstage role is the development of talent. Just the development of talent. That's the plan and that's the intention. He's going to be developing the incoming talent, working with NXT Europe, NXT Asia as it's launched, etc., etc. Get the Tables, welcome. Says, do you think Vince is just back to start the process of a WWE sale, or do you think he wants to get back in creative? One last question, is Vince happy with the product right now? Vince McMahon, to my knowledge, is just there to focus on the sale. He has made agreements that is all he's going to do. He's made that agreement with Nick Khan, with Stephanie McMahon, and with Triple H. However, it's Vince. At some point, he's going to look at the product and think, I would have done that differently. I'll go talk to Triple H and remind him that I'm in charge. He can't keep himself away from it. As regards being happy with the product, to my knowledge, he's not watching all that much. Michael says, quite rightly, some of you all ask the same questions over and over. I try and skip past them. Eric says, imagine if the signature on the sales contract has a McMahon signature, but it's Shane's. Someone is purporting to be Tony Khan in my chat. Because that would ever happen. I am not that big. Spider-Boss says, I hope we get Becky versus Bayley at WrestleMania 39. I hope so too. I thought that'd be a great match. Steve says, what's up, Tom? Hope you're well, dude. I'm very well, thank you, Steve. Welcome to the show. Sean says, Teddy Long spoke with Sportskeeda and said that Ronda doesn't take wrestling seriously. Said she needs to start taking wrestling and the business seriously. Well, she would not have been in the business under people like Triple H and under Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon and the like, if that were true. So, I have questions about that, Teddy. Nelson says, I forgot where I saw it. I read that he can't get into creative because he's on a SEC lawsuit thing. What makes creative special? Will says, I think people forget that Sasha and Naomi's problem was with Johnny Ace. It was also with Vince McMahon and the booking of the Women's Tag Team Championships. Spider-Boss says, I think there is no chance in hell for a return of FTR. Disagree. Verzar says, Wrestle Kingdom did record viewership. Is this a Sasha effect? Oh, did record viewership. Is this a Sasha effect or are we giving her too much credit? Bit of both. So there was a lot of excitement about Omega versus Ospreay. I think that had a huge impact as well. Also, yeah, the Sasha effect was a big one, but also they had women's wrestling on the card for the first time. It was a good card, and I think that's a large part of it. Joey says, is Austin Theory and Charlotte going to be holding all of the titles now that Vince is back? Once again, Vince McMahon is not in charge of creative. He's not coming in and saying, oh, we're going to change all the championships. Calm down. T Fresh says, why isn't Austin versus Reigns a backup if Rock can't make it to Mania? Simple reason. Austin versus Reigns would not be anywhere near as good a match as Rock versus Reigns, and it simply isn't something that they're looking at this point in time. Hector says, honestly, there are lots of companies who have horrible human beings at the top of the company, yet at floor level, it can still be good. Only time will tell. This isn't me saying Vince gets a pass, it's saying that I believe there is still good leadership in WWE regardless of Vince being there, and Vince himself agrees. Pardon me. Eric says, do you think Vince could buy a hockey team? Yeah, a really crap one. Ray says, Tom, you're a top man. I always give great wrestling news, and I always enjoy watching you. Thank you, Ray. Appreciate that. Wiggly says, I think there'll be enough people in WWE who will try to steer the ship and accept damage limitation as a result of this. Barry says, I think Vince returning will force Sasha to sign for NWA for $17 and a bag of crisps. Flavour of crisps will be the big sticking point in negotiations. Probably want hand-cooked crisp from Waitrose. NWA will only offer Lidl own brand. Can't even get Aldi? What the hell is happening in the world now? Now says, you have more news outside the Vince thing? Not today, no. I've put all of my focus into the Vince news today. So it's Vince news and then catching up with the chat. I had one piece of news today and we've already been going for almost 50 minutes. And we've still got chat to go. Eventually, I do have to split these into news shows and Q&A shows, don't I? Spider-Boss says, Bianca sold Alexa's DDT like a champion. Well, she is a champion. That should be mentioned. Christoph says, I think people are panicking too much of Vince's return. The way it looks, he's going to work on business side of things just like he was doing before stepping down. Only this time creative are in good hands. Wiggly says, Tom, here's a thought. Could a rich NFL or Premier League owner potential bid for WWE? Imagine if the Etihad Group bought WWE. Yeah, there's nothing stopping them from doing that. I think it's also possible that Vince takes the money and goes to buy a Premier League team. I think, Liverpool are for sale? That'd be weird. Danny says, will Vince be at SmackDown tonight? To my knowledge, he will not be at SmackDown. He is not travelling. Razar says, putting the title on Charlotte was a choice. Are they planning a Charlotte versus Bianca mega match? Winner takes all, kind of like Brock versus Roman last year. I think there's very much potential for that. We'll have to see how it plays out, but stranger things have happened. Wiggly, there is a long time between now and a potential sale. I obviously cannot sit here and say this person's going to buy the company. Spider-Boss says, could we see Gigi and JC Jane on the main roster now they don't have anything to do in NXT? We could, but as usual, I do have to repeat that a lot of call-ups have been cancelled recently, and this has definitely impacted NXT. Darren says, what's this all about? It's about Vince. The title of the video is very clear on that. Traffic says, hey Tom, if you had to guess, just in your opinion, do you see Vince making himself head of creative again? No, because I just don't think he's that interested. Jordan says, Tom, if you had a pound for every time you've had to say Vince is not involved in creative, you'd have enough... Sorry, guys. You'd have enough to buy the WWE off Vince. Joey says it would be kind of funny if Tony Khan tried to buy out WWE. Wiggly says, I have to admit the SmackDown after the allegations came out and the fans cheering Vince, I felt a little sick about that. And so should all of those fans. All of them. Trekipedia says, with rights negotiations coming up for both companies, do you see SmackDown possibly going to Amazon? Nope, Fox will just up the bid. Fox love having SmackDown. They are planning to keep it and make bids for the rest of it as well. Evening, Peter. How are you doing, sir? Also says, Tony Khan can't control his locker room, so I hope he doesn't even think of it. Ed says, Wrestle Kingdom always has massive Americans buying in to just check it out. For the same reason does WrestleMania having much bigger numbers than other shows. Very true. Wrestle Kingdom, after all, is the big one. Sean says, Alexa went private again on Twitter over getting all the blame for the match with Bianca on Raw. Yes, it wasn't a good match, but how is that her fault? Alexa Bliss, as always, gets the blame from everyone for everything. For some reason, there is a vendetta against her, it seems. Horsey says, the rap on JJ and Karen showed and children are involved in that's so wrong. I haven't seen that, and I plan very much not to. Joey says he should try and get a press pass for Money in the Bank. I'd rather not. I'd rather have a watch party. It's more fun. Press passes are a pain in the arse. Also, you have to sit with other journalists, and I've got to be honest, I'm not that big a fan of a lot of them. Plus, then I'd have to sit in the back in that, that kayfabe press conference that they do, where it's not a press conference, but everyone's got to pretend it's a press conference. And I just got to sit there acting like I have questions, when in reality, I want to ask actual questions, not kayfabe questions that I've cleared before. It's not for me anymore. I tried that. I enjoyed it while I could, if I got the opportunity to interview Will Ospreay right now, I absolutely would. Same with a lot of WWE people, but I don't think I'd go to the pay-per-views anymore. Simon says, do you think Liv will be in the women's tag team title match at Mania 39? I do, yes. Ray says, I'd like to see Cody Rhodes win Money in the Bank instead of winning the Royal Rumble. He wasn't originally planned to win last year's, after all. Spider-Man suggests Vince could even buy Man United. He could. Traffic says, everyone remember to hit that like button, by the way. This is where you'll find your best wrestling news. Simon says, is Roman going to work both nights and defend both world titles at Mania 39? Maybe. Stuart says, how much would you think WWE would go for? Vince is going to try for the billion. He's 100% going to try for the billion. Steven says, Rhea Ripley has to win the Royal Rumble to face Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's Championship. Wouldn't hate it. Michael says, is everything still on the table? More on the table than ever before. Steve says, what were your thoughts of New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom and New Year's Dash this year? Loved Wrestle Kingdom, as you might expect. As you know, I'm a big fan of New Japan in general, and having a show that was just a really great card and people were really excited, and my Twitter feed was just full of people giving it a shot for the first time. It was absolutely great. I've been a fan for a long time, so it was a great show. New Year's Dash really set the wheels in motion, having Okada and Omega team together. That was a thing. Joey says, you know where Cameron Grimes has been? He's been off TV for a while, and there's still main roster plans for him. It's a hard one to say. There are not main roster plans for everyone, and ultimately, if he's not being called up soon, there won't be main roster plans for him. Drew Wigley, you have not. Spider-Boss says, I think Bianca versus Charlotte could be the female version of Roman versus Brock. That has been mentioned earlier. Eric says, for anyone asking about creative, Vince said he doesn't want to do creative. He did. Wigley says, apparently for $7,400, not only can you get it, $7,400, not only can you get a top VIP ticket and plush hotel room and all meet and greet perks, you get to have a game of mini golf with WWE superstars on the Friday before. That would actually be great fun. That would actually be great fun. I wouldn't hate that. Hector says, Tom, in your opinion, could a more lucrative TV deal also be what Vince is looking for, or is a sale the final end game for him? He just wants the sale now. Spider-Boss says, the best of Money in the Bank in the UK will be here the Hey Bailey, do you want to be my girl chant. Maybe she'll be Money in the Bank. Barry says, Vince could probably buy the Royal Family. They'll be cheap soon. They're already pretty cheap, let's be fair. Spider-Boss says, I think only Saudi people could give Vince the money he wants. Not only Saudi people, but absolutely they're amongst it. Sean says, Rhea could always win the chamber to face Bianca unless Bianca defends in the chamber, which she will not be doing. Ray says, could we see the Glazers sell Man United? I can't comment on the Glazers. That's not in my remit whatsoever. This is a wrestling stream. Simon says, do you think Shane McMahon still returns? I was mostly joking about that. I don't know whether you thought I was serious or not. Will says, I do want to thank you for your help with all the wrestling news. Great at your job. I can tell my friends these news and act like I'm smart. Appreciate that, Will. I try my best to be as entertaining and informative as possible. I do want to say a quick thank you. We have gained 7 subscribers since we started. We are just two away from 1,960, so please consider being one of those 2. No, Steve, I'm not planning to go to Money in the Bank in London in July. I'm planning a watch party instead. It will be more worthwhile for me long term. After all, the Royal Rumble watch party is incoming, and I have a lot of confidence that it's going to be my first 10k video, given how things have been going recently. Kieran says, do you know how much they sell WWE for? As I say, I think they're going to go for the billion. Trekkerpedia says, where would Fox put Raw and NXT? I'd be happy if Raw went back to 2 hours, but USA won't let it go without a fight. Good. That fight means a bidding war. That means more money for the WWE. That means more money for the talent and the company in general. So if they want to spend it, they can spend it. Where would Fox put it? That's a good question. But they want it. They want it bad. Base Future says, why would fans be ashamed of cheering Vince? He's the boss. He is a boss. That doesn't make him a good person. Base Future, if you've not already seen, I made a video on accusations for many, many years against Vince McMahon. It's worth a watch. Jaden, the recap is incoming. KJ says, does Vince's role have anything to do with Triple H style and talent? Nope. Razar says, I find it interesting WWE isn't keeping Cody's return a surprise. They have him on the Rumble poster. Is this because they have other surprises planned? Yes, but I will say they didn't keep Edge's return a surprise the year he won the Royal Rumble. Nat says, what do you think the chamber matches will be? Good. Danny McLeod says, any surprise rumored entrance for the Rumble? Quite a few, yes. Sean says, I hope Roman Reigns loses the titles. Some people do. Some people are a bit bored of it. I kind of get it. Kieran says, I don't think Sasha's debut at New Japan was as good as people thought it was going to be. To be fair, when it comes to Sasha, people really expect everything to be amazing. Horsey says, to be fair, Vince lost it near the end and behind the scenes stuff is disgusting, but he did build WWE into what it is today. Yeah, great businessman, not a great person. Callie says, I really like Miss Bliss. Nice to see her getting some more airtime. Bianca as champ is really getting as sour as Roman's title reign. Not lasting much longer, to be fair. Joey said, if Vince sells WWE, will Triple H still be in charge of creative? That is entirely up to the person who buys it. Thank you, Ed. Megan says, I think Rhea will win the Rumble, but I think she's heading for SmackDown. 1, revenge on Charlotte. 2, she only needs a SmackDown title for the Grand Slam. And 3, Dom goes with her to challenge Ray for WrestleMania, which would be fun. Eric says, what if Eric Bischoff buys a WWE? Eric Bischoff does not have a spare $1 billion to my knowledge. Carmelina says, Tom, you're the best. Thank you, Carmelina. Thank you. Simon says, Tom, my new fave pro wrestling companies to watch in New Japan Stardom. Doesn't surprise me. Ray says, do you think Sky Sports will ever get WWE back from BT Sports? Nope, and I don't think they want it either. Venom says, I hope we get Becky or Charlotte in the chamber this year. We will. BM says, I hate BT Sports coverage of WWE. I think it's much, much better, personally. Steven says, Sasha Banks going AEW, I see her helping that women division grow. We say that about a hell of a lot of people who go to that division. John says, have you already talked about Vince? Yes, but I'll be recapping in at most 3 minutes. So stick around. There'll be a big recap of everything I've said. Nelson says, who buys WWE if USA keeps Raw and Fox gets SmackDown? Whoever wants to and whoever they agree to sell to. Will says, were you surprised that WWE brings Money in the Bank down your way since it's a big 5 pay-per-view? Nope. I spoke about the fact we were going to get a yearly pay-per-view in the UK. I spoke about the fact that Money in the Bank pay-per-view was going to make some changes. There was discussion of removing it entirely, but instead they've downgraded it by letting it go to the UK. Harry's here, says hi, Tom. Hello, Harry. Spider Boss says, who do you see beating Bianca at the Rumble? No one. Sean says, prayers for Damar Hamlin after what happened on Monday Night Football. Didn't see it, but I've heard a lot about it. Spider-Boss says, I love spoiler warning because it's accurate wrestling news and I enjoy it. Thank you, Spider-Boss. Appreciate that. Hector says, we're only 6 days into 2023 and already we've seen Sasha debut in New Japan and Vince returning to WWE. Strap in, folks. It's going to be a long year. Spider-Boss says, does Laurinaitis stay out of WWE? Yes. Wiggly says, people seem to think we should forgive Vince or overlook what he did because of how he changed the business, but we could say the same about he who isn't my brother, but is still a bell end. Sean says, Freddie Prinze Jr. said, NXT's unwatchable garbage. He's entitled to his opinion. Wiggly says, did they switch to an arena event in the UK due to Clash not selling out? No. They just booked the arena they were looking for. They wanted it in London the whole time. Spider-Bell says, how many times have we heard fans say this woman is going to elevate the AEW women's division and nothing happens? Too many. Christoph says, if Disney buys WWE before WrestleMania, the main event is set. Mickey versus Donald. Have a busy day, just need to chill out a bit. Fair enough, Christoph. Simon mentions that Sasha/Mercedes Barmageddon episode Monday after Raw drew 526,000 viewers, a rise of 28% of viewership. Trekkerpedia says, thank you, Tom, and everyone for helping me to not worry. Heard the news about Vince last night and I was worried. Now to hear he's just there for negotiations and not creative, that puts my mind at ease. To be fair, guys, let's remember I'm spreading fear. Bay says, 1 billion is way too cheap. There is a buyer's premium and is trading at over 6 billion at the moment. To be fair, if they're making $1 billion in revenue, 6 billion isn't that much. Horsey says, is it 1 a.m. for SmackDown? Yep. Yes, it is. Every week. Jermaine says, hey, Tom, I have a question. Does whoever loses between Fox and NBC Universal, that loser signs with AEW for a huge TV deal? Who says they're going to lose? USA and Fox are currently both getting TV deals. There's nothing saying they won't. Joey says, why didn't WWE move Money in the Bank to Mania? Not a fan of it as a standalone pay-per-view because they wanted to take it to the UK and they feel like it will sell a lot of tickets. Ray says, do you think John Cena will wrestle in 2023? Yes. Now says, will the Clash be next year or only Money in the Bank? Only Money in the Bank next year. Harry says, Tom, is Hell in a Cell pay-per-view come back in 2023? There are definitely rumours that the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view will not be happening, but we will have more Hell in a Cell matches. Double J says, do you think Bruce Pritchard is jumping for joy? Probably. And Kieran says, it sucks they didn't bring WWE pay-per-views to the UK sooner. Had money a few years ago, now I barely have money to spend on a pay-per-view. Also, it's really expensive. Like, really bad. Noob says, I wonder what Asuka is looking for. Something in Japan will lead her to come back in time for the Rumble. And Ray says, let's all give Tom a thumbs up on this live stream. We currently have 49 likes. One more gets us to 50. Please do consider it. Wiggly says, SmackDown watch party later? Yes, there will be. Hector says, I wouldn't be surprised if Vince saw how much the rights for NFL streaming and laughed and said, I could do better. He's egotistical. Like that. Welcome, Corey. Thank you kindly for renewing your subscription for a 21st month. Great to see you, sir. Barry says, I like spoiler warning as well, though I wish you would say if Vince is there for creative or not. The answer is maybe. Maybe. I see what you did there. To recap, because we are very much at the top of the hour, so it's time for a recap. Vince McMahon has returned to the WWE. He has an 81% majority in his shares, which means he was able to change the bylaws of the company, which allowed him to have a veto on any incoming TV deals. This essentially means that he can refuse any TV deal being put together, which would remove practically all of the income that WWE relies on to run. It would also mean WWE would go off TV entirely, essentially putting an end to the WWE. Because of his ability to do this, he was able to get his way, which meant the return of himself, George Barrios and Michelle Wilson, two people who he had previously fired for issues with the WWE Network's growth. He was able to bring them back to the board, essentially to do his bidding. He replaced Joe Ellen, Lyons Dillon, Jeffrey R. Speed and Alan M. Wexler as members of the board. Through no fault of theirs, they were told, thanks, but get out. Also, two people resigned today because of this Vince McMahon news, Ignace Lahoud and Manjeet Singh. There is, as we know, or has at least been, an investigation into the activities of Vince McMahon, accusations against him, and his choice to spend company money, on hush money payments. Many of those board members are still in play now. Some of them are not. So Vince is back in place as executive chairman. He has given the company, by which I mean Nick Khan, Stephanie McMahon, and Paul Levesque, several assurances that he will not get involved in creative. However, he has been known already to be pitching a few alternative WrestleMania matches. So he's made his assurances, but he's also been very vocal about what he likes and what he doesn't like. The fact that he has power for that TV deal will continue, but his plan essentially is to organise these TV right negotiations by the end of 2023 and then start the process of the sale. This would mean potential restructuring and budget cuts as well. Fox are looking at the possibility of gaining Raw and NXT at the next set of negotiations. This would mean that Fox has Raw, NXT and SmackDown. They're interested in all three programs, but USA Network not likely to allow that fight to go on without them. Thank you very much, Corey, for popping over to the YouTube and upgrading your membership to channel member as well. Thank you kindly for that. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. There is a shareholder meeting happening in the spring incoming, in which Vince McMahon is planning to formalise a lot of the bylaw changes that he has made. Given that he has the majority that he has, which is 81%, there is literally no point having a shareholder meeting. He has literally all of the power, and at this point, basically all of the shares. There are some very unhappy voices in the locker room about this particular deal. Some who have returned recently want back out again, and some new deals are looking less solid. Very few people are happy with the situation, and from what I'm hearing, at least two people have asked about potentially being released from the company. There was a meeting that took place about 2.5 hours ago now, to basically reassure employees that Vince would not be getting involved in creative. Basically a blanket discussion to say, it's fine, don't worry, it'll all be okay. But what I will say is that right now, the artist formerly known as Sasha Banks is undoubtedly very happy that she did not sign the new deal that was on offer. Let's catch up with the rest of the chat. Joey says, why is Kevin Dunn still with WWE? Because everyone likes the job that he does and intends to keep him. Harry says, is Kane returning soon? He'll probably pop up at some point. I won't like it, but it'll be there. Razal says, Vince pulled a Mark Henry fake retiring. He did indeed. Double J says, basically, if you see people chasing after the 24/7 title again, we know WWE is in for a ride. And not exactly in for a treat, I tell you that. Callie says, I'd love to go to a pay-per-view event, but London will be extortionate prices. Yes, it will. Christoph says, have you seen Shelton Benjamin's promo main event? Would be cool if they gave him one last push. I like Shelty B. I don't see him getting any major push, but maybe as a tag team one more time. John says, Vince is not going to fire all the people Triple H brought in, right? Nope. He's not intending to do that. However, that's the intention we're talking about. It's not impossible that he decides to change his mind. He does have the power to make whatever changes he wants, and why would you have that power if you're not going to use it? Stephen says, bringing Linda McMahon on the board of directors stuff with Nick Khan, Stephanie McMahon and Triple H. She has no interest in doing so. Harry says, did Greg Helms leave WWE as producer? I don't believe it was him, no. I think it was a little while ago he left. Trekkapedi says, forgot about the NFL rights blockbuster deal, so it makes sense that Vince would be like, I can do better, he always competes with NFL. Yeah, that's his plan. That's very much his plan. Kieran says, I'd love a company like Disney or Amazon to buy it, then put Raw and SmackDown on their own streaming sites. KJ says, 2 wrestlers possibly asked for release. Why they asked so soon? Because they're not happy. Harry said, did Rey Mysterio deal might end soon? There's lots of opt-out clauses with Rey Mysterio's deal. To my knowledge, he hasn't signed a new one, but he's not done yet. Base Future says, if Vince pops up at SmackDown, I guarantee the crowd pops for the boss. They will, and I won't be happy about that either. Joey says, it's stupid that Mattel was mad at Mandy for that picture leaking, but are fine with Vince returning. Who says they are? Like, it's just happened. There hasn't been a reaction yet. Horsey says, going now, Tom. See you at the watch along, mate. Thank you again. Thank you, Horsey. I'll see you there. Venom says, great. Now that just guarantees Sasha is never coming back as long as Vince is there. Does it? Does it? Razar says, if Vince is in charge of the new TV deals, I can see him using it as an excuse to run creative again, thinking he can improve the ratings. That, unfortunately, is part of my thinking as well. Wiggly says, big shout to the mods for dealing with the trolls. Ed is on fire today. No place for that kind of racism here, and I know you, Tom, and others here don't stand for that. That's why I keep coming back. Absolutely. There will be absolutely no racism in this chat. Anytime that anything like that pops up, if there isn't a mod available, I will deal with it personally. Wiggly says, that effectively means Vince will stick his beak in RE Creative. He has the ability to do so. Do you think he'll be able to keep himself out of it? I don't. I really don't. We are 68 minutes into the show. I am going to call it there and wrap it up. Huge thank you to all of you for giving me the time of day, for joining me, for chatting away, for listening to the Vince News, and to all of you who share the news and share Spoiler Warning, I want to say a massive special thanks as well. We will be live again in just under 2 hours for a full watch-along of WWE SmackDown. Last week's SmackDown Watch Party received 6,900 views, a new record for a watch party of any incarnation, so fingers crossed, we're able to do just that well. But more importantly, I hope to see a load of you there because we have a hell of a lot of fun and it's always great to see you guys. Until then, thank you everybody. I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic and I'll see you all very soon.